Today I'm showing you how to create dreamy photos with colored lights with the help of my friend, Moody Dark Room. Moody recently exploded on social media for his dreamy and moody photography styles, and he's gonna drop all the tips he has for recreating this style. What's up, my brother?
Yo,
good to see you, good to see you. Tell me, what are you thinking for these 3 shots?
So I want to get a little bit of variety with the new lights. So I'm thinking one look's gonna be a little bit more simple. I'm thinking like a suit, but like a more casual fitted suit. Look 2, I'm thinking more of an ethereal kind of dress, flowy, white, kind of angelic type of look.
Kind of like almost like nature.
Yeah, exactly, more nature. And then the final look is gonna be more of like a grungy, cyberpunky, like futuristic, you know, a little bit more gritty type of look.
Amazing, well let's get started. Let's get that backdrop up. All right, we got the seamless up. What lights are you thinking for this first shot?
I just want to make sure I have all the output I need in case I need a little bit more. So I'm going to be using the 300Cs instead of the 150s. And if I do need just a little bit of splash, we'd have the 150Cs here on deck as well.
So you want to put the 300C on the go bar arm here?
I do, but I actually brought my own, and this is a little bit more of an extension arm than that. Pro tip, if you can get an extension arm and you can use one of these, it's going to change your game because we're on this white backdrop. We don't have that much space to work with. So I don't want to have the C-stand being in the same space as the model. So if I use an extension arm, this booms out to 8 feet. So I can have the C-stand completely off the backdrop and still get that top-down light that I want. Pick one up. Makes your life a lot easier if you shoot on backdrops like these.
All right, so what camera are we gonna use today?
So I like to shoot with Sony. I still have the A7 III just because I haven't really found a reason to upgrade to the A7 IV. I've had this guy for a few years and you don't need a full frame. I started with an A6000. I did most of my early work with my crop sensor. It wasn't until like 2021, so last year.
Wow,
Two years ago that I got the full frame.
So you don't need to have an expensive camera.
To this day, I still use it as a B cam.
And then what about lenses and filtration too?
I like to shoot a little bit tighter, so the minimum I'll go is probably a 50 mil, which I have on right now. It's a 50 mil prime. But I also do have a zoom lens, and this goes from 28 to 75. But I have a Dream Effects filter. And what this thing does is it kind of just softens up the image. It's like a pro mist. It gives a little bit of a glow to your highlights, and it just kind of helps the highlight roll off into the shadows a little bit more, and it kind of just brings a whole image together. There's a bunch of different brands. Personally, I like to use Prism Effects, Dream Effects filter. When we're doing something like this where it's very controlled lighting, you get a really nice dreamy effect. I only recommend it for studio work. I feel like when you use it in daylight scenarios, it can kind of be a little bit too much. I want to have full control of the lights. We're gonna kill the house lights. All right, I think this is looking pretty good. I think it's time to get the model out here.
All right, let me get you a model.
What's up? Nice to meet you.
So this is Kim. She's an artist out in LA and she's our model today. I think it's time we get started.
All right, let's do it. All right, let's do some quick fine tuning so I can get my settings going. Is there a side of your face that you prefer?
Yes, actually, and you're the first photographer that's ever asked me that.
That's crazy.
I really appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Pro tip, always ask your model what side of their face they prefer because most people have a side that they consider like their good side. And if their good side is showing on the photos, they're gonna be more confident. You're gonna get better photos at the end of the day.
Agreed.
Perfect. My camera has touch focus and then it gives me this little square. And then from here, I like to keep it in the face generally. If I can't get an eye track, then just the face. But most of the time, newer cameras, good autofocus, you'll be able to get an eye track in it. But I'm always focusing on the face because the model is the subject of our photo. All right, so right now I'm kind of just playing around, fine tuning. And because we're shooting red, which is a warmer color, I'm gonna drop this down to a warmer color to match. And I just think it looks a little bit better because then if everything's warm, it looks nicer. I like the setup. I think we got a couple of photos that I really like. I'm gonna adjust the lighting a little bit, but one of the things that you guys may have noticed is that I'm using a barn door. With the barn door, you have full control of your light and you can shape it to a way that is best for you. So right now I kind of have it in a little bit of a sliver, and this is gonna allow the light to go through, but it's gonna allow me to have a lot more of a controlled beam than if I just had like a reflector on it. So with this, I can adjust it. I can maybe give a little bit more, give a little bit less. I really like using barn doors because they just give me way more flexibility when it comes to lighting. If you always want to get a nice moody type of look, always go for a Rembrandt lighting with your lighting. I promise you it's going to make it look that much more dynamic. It's going to put that much more depth in her face and it just looks good. And then see the direction that your shadow's going from the right light, look in that direction. So I just had her go from looking at the camera to looking up at the light. And although it's a very small change, I think it just changes the dynamic of the photo, and be very cognizant of where your shadows are falling, and especially with a setup like this where the shadows can make or break it. Directing your model and having little changes will, change the overall appearance of the photo. So for the look too, I'm gonna keep the position of the lights the same. Barn doors are on both the back ones. As far as color tones, she's gonna be wearing a more like soft white kind of color. And like I said, we're going for that nostalgic, older, angelic type of look. So I'm gonna lean towards the like yellows and just warm whites. So the best thing about the Sidus Link app is that all these lights are paired to my phone. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the second look. Boom. So another thing I'm gonna incorporate with this look is, although the lights look pretty cool right now, I'm also gonna give it a little bit of haze in here just to add a little bit more depth and to give it a little bit more of that kind of God ray type of look that we're trying to go for. Make sure that you waft your fog and turn it into some haze. As you can see right now, the smoke is in the air, but it's looking a little thick still. You can kind of tell that it's smoke. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the smoke machine a little bit, and then we're gonna waft it, and it's gonna give us a lot more of an even beam, and then you won't really be able to tell that it's fog in the air. It's gonna just kind of look more like atmosphere. And especially with the dreamy look, you want it to be as seamless as possible. So that combined with a dream filter, it's just gonna be dream overload, and it's gonna look really, really nice in camera.
So how's the photo looking so far?
The photos are looking good. I like the beam. I just wish it was a little bit more pronounced. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna swap this white backdrop to a black backdrop because it's gonna allow us to get a lot more separation between the backdrop and the light beam.
All right, let's switch out the set.
Let's do it. So typically I like to have my in-camera white balance set to whatever light Kelvin I'm using. Right now we're set at 2500, but I'm still shooting at my daylight just because I want it to be a little bit warmer anyways. And I can always change that in post as long as every single light is the same.
So your main guideline for yourself is you basically keep all of your lights at the same Kelvin.
Exactly. As you guys can see, I tilted the top-down light to be more of an angle because now the shadows are falling towards us, and when the shadows are falling towards us, that means that the camera can see the shadows. And because we have light beams in the air, where there's light beams, there's also gonna be shadow beams, and that gives another interesting look to the image because that depth is gonna kind of show a little bit more. The more intense the angle, the more intense the shadow beam.
Those photos are looking amazing, man. I think it's a wrap on number 2. It's time for number 3.
I think so too. Let's get that white backdrop back out and then clear the floor, and we can get on with look number 3.
The punk look.
The punky look. So I like to use the spotlight when I want to add a little bit more depth into the image. And the spotlight, I'm actually going to be blasting it on to the backdrop. It's going to allow me to create some shapes, and it's going to give me the model a little bit more of like a silhouetted type of look. And another thing you can do with spotlights is you can insert like some gobos to add a little bit of texture with the light, which is cool. Kind of gives it that really cool futuristic look.
I'm liking these colors here, Moody. The red and blue, love that contrast. Tell me about your decisions when it comes to color choice.
And I think that having colors that are like on the opposite side of the color wheel, they tend to add some depth to the photo. So I have some red in the back. I'll probably change that to like a green or something when we're playing around with it. And then I have a blue up top, and then I have a little bit of white just to give it just a splash of white in there too. If we were to kill the white light, the red and the blue would start merging in together, and we would get some purples in there, but it wouldn't be a clean purple. It would be like half purple, half blue, half red. And when you're editing, you're gonna start getting some color banding in there. So make sure that you always have just a little bit of white in there if you're gonna go for multiple RGB looks. So with the final look, we were the general concept was using a little bit more RGB. So I'm kind of auditioning different lighting setups, and with the Sidus Link, I can just do it on the fly. So we played around with some blues, we played around with some reds, we'll play around with some purples and just kind of see what that looks like. And pop on some lights, pop them off, and just kind of get a little bit of a different look as we go. And then we're kind of stage the lights a little bit differently. So right now, because we're using a little bit more light and there's that highlight in the back, I'm stopping down a little bit, but I'm keeping it at 200 ISO. I'm shooting at 1.4 just to keep that shallow depth of field.
Nice. And
shutter speed right now is about 1/250th, but I'm gonna play around with that and do some different exposures. I don't always trust what the camera says. I kind of go with like what my eye's seeing, because sometimes the camera can say that you're underexposed, but you're underexposed in the parts of the photo that don't matter. She's in the highlights and she's what matters. That's what I'm paying attention to. So right now I have the spotlight a little bit lower to the ground. We were doing some standing shots, but now we're on the ground. So in order to get her head in the middle of what's going on in the spotlight, I'm shooting at a lower angle so I can still get that kind of ground incorporated in there with that splash light from the top and get that backdrop all in one photo. So right now I'm kind of just using the lowness to position her head in the middle of the shot.
Wow.
And it turned out pretty cool. All right, so I'm actually gonna swap out the gobo to this cool little, it almost reminds me of like the codes coming down the wall in like the Matrix. So we're gonna try and get that kind of look. We're gonna use some green for it. And we've also moved the position of the gobo. So it looks really cool now. And then we're gonna go for like a more Matrix. Yeah, there we go. So now we're getting that Matrix vibe.
So we completely transformed what you already had set up. Tell me about the barn doors situation on the backdrop and then what brightness level we're at right now.
I have the gobo at 100% because I want to get as much of the brightness out of it. This stencil in the gobo does subtract a lot from the total output, so we have to boost that a little bit. And then the barn door in the back is to give a little bit of splash to the backdrop because I want to create some separation and to give us some depth. We're running that backlight at about 7%, so it's very, very dim in relation to this 300C. But that one also doesn't have anything taken away from the beam, so it does appear a little bit brighter. And got it. All right, that's a wrap. Yeah,
all right,
that's a
heck
wrap.
yeah, bro.
You got it. Good job. Killed it.
Let me know what you thought of the process. What was your favorite tip? Moody, do you have any closing thoughts here?
So if you get yourself some RGB lighting, kind of like we did today, don't be afraid to play around with the lighting. I went into the final look with a specific look in mind, but we ended up not even doing it. We kind of played around, went with what felt right. And the Matrix thing was like just like an on-the-fly decision that we decided, and it turned out really, really cool. It was some of my favorite photos that we took today. So don't be afraid to try new things. You'll never know what you like and what you don't like unless you experiment. So that's kind of my closing thoughts.
If you have any questions for Moody or you're wondering about any more about the photography process, just let us know down in the comments. Subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.